let's talk about vibrato on the cello and then eventually on the bass as well. Before you start to attempt vibrato on the cello or bass, it's extremely important that all of the fundamental aspects of your setup are secure and and learned. So if you're still tucking your elbow in, if you're collapsing your fingers, if your bow hold isn't secure, then those things need to be addressed first before you begin to learn vibrato. To start off, we're going to not use the bow. We're just going to focus on the left hand. And the first thing we're going to do is use our second finger, which tends to be the easiest finger to do vibrato on. All we're going to do is basically polish the string. We're not going to use a huge section. We're not going to go up and down like crazy. We're just going to choose a spot around this big, maybe between the notes, say like E and G on the D string, and just go back and forth. You're going to notice that my arm is involved in this process, and it's not really coming from my wrist. If you don't want to be doing anything like this quite yet, just allow it to be with your arm kind of stemming from your elbow, just opening and closing. The idea is that I'm not pushing down on the string, I'm just kind of touching my second finger on the D string and just gently going back and forth. My thumb is still on the back of the neck, following my second finger, and I'm just going to get used to this motion. Just do this for a while. This can be, this should always be how you start the process when you are working on vibrato. Never try and jump straight into it. Just start with just going back and forth. That's it. I'm not pressing. I'm just kind of polishing the string back and forth. Once you do this for a while and once you're comfortable with it, you're going to start slowly making it more concise and polishing a smaller area. And then eventually you're going to get it so that your thumb stays on the back of the neck and doesn't move up and down. I like to start on the note F natural on the D string. So try and slowly work your way from this size, slowly, until you get to about the note F natural. And again, my thumb is going to secure as it does typically, but I want to keep my arm moving. My thumb is secure, my arm continues to move. Another thing that you're going to notice is that my second finger stays on that note F. Once you get to this point, you don't want to continue polishing. You want to try and zero in on that note F. It's almost like there's a magnet on that note F, and you're just kind of going from here, and then slowly you kind of zero in on that note. And then you're going to continue that motion while your thumb is secure and while your second finger is secure. Let's do that one more time. Again, we're going to start with our second finger and our thumb and just polish the string. Nothing too crazy, just get used to it, and just go back and forth. Slowly you're going to make that area that you're polishing smaller and smaller until we find right about where the note F is on the D string. We're going to secure our thumb and keep our hand in that same motion. You're also going to notice that my second finger is tall. My second finger, I'm using the pad of my finger, and I'm not collapsing like this. I'm keeping it on the pad, and I'm keeping it nice and tall when I do this motion. Once you get used to this, right, then that's when we can start trying to add the bow. Before you do this, make sure that there's no tension in your arm and that you're not squeezing anything you don't need to, and that it's just a really relaxed motion. And in fact, before we add the bow, one thing I forgot, make sure that all of your knuckles are flexible in your hand. So this isn't something where you want to be rigid and really zero in on that note. You want to make sure that as you're moving, I'll see if I can make it easier to see, I'm relaxed and my second finger is flexible and it's moving kind of with the motion of my arm as I go back and forth like this. So once you're comfortable with that and that second finger is flexible and you're doing everything exactly how I just explained it, that's when we're going to add the bow. When you add the bow, it's going to be important that you do this slowly and that you only use the bow sparingly at first. What you might find happen is when you try and combine both the bow and vibrato, you might get something that sounds like this. That happens because we're trying to focus on something with the right hand while also doing something brand new with the left hand. What I recommend is that you start off by warming up the vibrato. Get used to this motion right around the note F, and then we're going to do basically a measure, 4 beats of using the bow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then stop the bow, make sure that everything is still moving the way it should, you're not tensing up. Once you warm it up a little bit again, try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let it relax. Make sure you're still doing the motion correctly. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the process that you should try and repeat. Keep in mind that you probably won't be able to do this the first time, and it'll probably take many days of practice to finally get to a point where you can consistently keep the vibrato moving and keep the bow moving and get a sound that is somewhat of a vibrato. Once you master doing that with the third finger, with the second finger, you can try moving onto the third finger. This would be about the note F sharp. Once you're good with that, you can experiment with the fourth finger. I like to keep my third finger down when I do my fourth finger vibrato. And then you could try it with your first finger. Keep in mind that the motion remains the same for each finger. Even though with your first finger, you're contacting the string more on the side, you're still doing the same motion generating from your arm. Let's see what this looks like when we do it on the bass instead of the cello. Using vibrato on the bass is extremely similar to how you would use it on the cello, and the way we go about it is going to be the same. First of all, again, if you have any underlying problems with the way that you are putting your fingers down on the instrument, if you collapse them regularly, if you're still learning, again, the basics of just how to hold the instrument, if you're still working on the bow hold, then those are things that should be addressed before you go about using vibrato. The process is the same as the cello. Just like we just did, you're going to start off by basically polishing the D string. We're still going to use that note F natural on the D string, and we're just going to move up and down the instrument about the span of between the first 2 tapes is what I like to start with. Just get used to it, making sure that you're generating this from your arm and that you're not doing too much twisting. Slowly, you're going to zero in on that note F natural. Your thumb will secure, your second finger goes down, and you're going to keep that motion going. As was the same with cello, we want to make sure that our knuckles are flexible and that our finger stays on that note and that you're not kind of continuing to slide up and down. So just as we did with the bass or with the cello, we're going to try and warm up the vibrato before we try with the bow. Get used to that motion, and then we're going to do 4 beats. 1, 2, ready, and. We're going to take a second. Make sure you're still doing everything correct. Make sure that your finger is still in the right spot. Make sure that there's no tension. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the process is the same. Again, this takes time and practice. Please do not expect to get this right away on the first try. It typically takes a few times going through this process to finally get a motion that resembles this relaxed and consistent vibrato.